Welcome to Wednesday, Fired Up Live out of New Jersey. Lisa,
In New Jersey, are you sure? I think you think it's
straight
in
out of
Vegas.
straight out of New Jersey. I listen. Uh, for the world to know, yeah, I just got back from a Vegas guys trip, and it will be the last Vegas guys trip I ever take. So that's that. We're done, and I'm glad I'm alive to talk about it.
I feel
Not
like
gonna. Yes.
I feel like it's been a very long time since we've live streamed, but it's only been a week. But for
Yeah.
some reason, you being away felt like a very long time.
Yeah. It did actually. It felt really long, and I'm not gonna talk about the Giants. Just don't let's not talk about the Giants. Um, I'm a Jets fan now, and that's that. So we're here, we're fired up live. Lisa, we have a good one today. So the season has been flying by. This is the next to last episode already, and today's a special one because really, uh, we're big on marketing. We're big on marketing. We're big on proving the power behind it, and we have plenty of examples. I know our guest has plenty of examples, and we're going to dive into a lot of that conversation right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Chelsea Stuck, the CEO owner of Crave and Co. Chelsea, welcome.
Hi, it's good to be
Hello there.
here.
Good to have you. So, do a little brief intro. Let everybody know who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thank you. So my name is Chelsea Stuck. I am the president and founder of Crave and Company. We are a marketing agency that is specifically geared towards the hospitality industry. So we work with everyone from rep firms to dealers to manufacturers. We even do some end users as well. And of course, we do some non-hospitality work, but we do everything all the way from producing podcasts to video to website design to content development, ad campaigns. We're kind of a one-stop shop, and that was always, my dream was to be a resource to what I'm passionate about. And my background is in manufacturing. For 14 years or so, I was a sales manager on the manufacturing side, but very passionate and involved in marketing. And we turned 5 in February 2024. So I think I might be doing something right. Just gonna.
Sounds like it. Happy early birthday to Crave.
Thanks. Feels real good. So
And you should feel good. You should feel good because I would tell you, you and a great, really do. We're going to talk about a lot going on in AI, about ins and outs of things for the food service industry. Having some questions, and these are just starter questions. We'll have some conversations. Lisa, if people are jumping into the queue down here, Lisa will let us know. We'll have some comments and questions.
I actually may have someone who will jump in to ask a question live. We'll just have to find out who and when.
No, I stumped the marketer.
There's always surprises here on Fired Up. So let's jump in. Let's jump into a question. See where it goes. So, what are some practical steps or strategies that businesses can take when deciding to invest heavily in marketing to maximize the impact of their efforts?
Sure. So I have kind of a 3 or 4 prong approach to this. And, you use the word practical. So I'm starting practical, right? And that's different than maybe tactics, right? And tactics would be like the ways and the actual things we do. So from a global stance, if I'm talking to anybody and we're having a conversation about, moving forward with marketing, going all in, really like, okay, my business is ready, let's do this, or we want to make a change. First things first that I will, literally, hang my hat on, I guess, is that you need to be committed. And when I say committed, that means that, look, when I used to launch a product on, the manufacturing side, it took 18 months to see the results of launching that product, to get, adaptation, to get awareness, to see, the fruits of our labor. And so I think that a trap people fall into is that they think that, I'm just going to turn this thing on, or I'm going to do this thing. And absolutely there are one-hit wonders, or there are, just runaway successes from the get-go. I mean, you have a need, you find what my mentor calls a seam, or something that you can disrupt, or something that people are really looking for. Absolutely, you might take off, right? My company kind of did that during COVID, right? All of a sudden, everyone needed to be digital. we were there to answer the call. That said, it takes 18 months, in my opinion and in my experience, to really see the fruits of labor. So you need to have a commitment for a longer, bigger picture. So that way, when you are measuring things, you have some baseline results, you have things to look back at and really see if it's working or not. So that's number one. Number two is flexibility. Why I say flexibility? Again, I deal with a lot of C-suite level. Sometimes I'm aiding a marketer who needs a larger team, right? We do that a lot too. But a lot of times I'm working with someone who, they're handing us the keys and saying, hey, I need your help. What should I do? This person's not a marketer. And when I say flexibility, I mean, you have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing to take some chances. You have to be willing to put stuff out there and spend some money. I'm just going to say it. And it may or may not work the way you expect. So that's the commitment part too, because you got to give it time to tweak and change and edit. It's not as clean as a sale. I will come back to that later. But and the third part, which is the third, fourth prong, is really doing your research and planning. And when I say that, you should be very clear to a marketer like myself, right, or on your team, what you want out of this, right? And I will give you an example. I had a client that came to me probably a year and a half ago. They said, I have a very specific goal in mind. I want to be seen as this, and this is how I'm going to measure if I'm successful at it, right? They wanted to be in a certain light. They wanted to get certain phone calls. They wanted to be considered for certain things, right? I said, okay, then we need to do this. We need to change your brand. We need to change your website. You want to play with big boys? I'm going to make you look like a big boy then, right? Okay. And so we did all of those things. And I'm not kidding you. After we rolled everything out, within 6 months, picked up the phone, called me and said, I've got a couple $1 million of offers now. So, but, they were committed to the long term. They knew exactly what they wanted. And they were flexible. There were some things in there that I'm sure, that didn't go exactly as planned. So that's kind of my practical approach to it, because then what you do next is all just tactics, and it's just different channels to get your message out. And that's all the same. Unless, something new like Threads comes along, but essentially those are all the same methods.
Yeah, no. And, going back to your first point, it takes time. You have to be willing to invest. And you've heard the metaphors, like you can't go to the gym on Monday and by Friday expect to have your biceps bulging and your abs popping and all these. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It's not realistic. And that's most things in life. You have to be willing to put the time in and understand it might be 6 months, might be 18 months, it might be 24 months. It's going to take time for you to begin to see the results and like you said, the fruits of your labor. I think so many people, especially for me, when I talk to the people, like, oh, I put an ad up, I did this, I didn't get anything back on it. I'm like, what else did you do? Well, that's it. Well, no, that's not the way it works. I opened an Instagram and I posted like 6 times and no one's responding. Well, yeah, I mean, no one, even now for me with all the stuff we have, we don't always get comments and engagement because you have to keep, it's the trial, like you said, there's trial and error too. There's things you have to do you have to be willing to spend the money. You have to go through all these things to test the waters, to test the market, to edit, like you said, all these things. It's all part of it. And I think our industry, when you look at the food service industry, there's just not a lot of belief still from a lot of people that these things are tried and true and they will work over time. So maybe today we're gonna shift some minds.
Yeah, and it's hard. I get it. It's hard. It's not tangible. Going down and shaking somebody's hand or playing golf with them. It's very tangible to a salesperson. It's very tangible to an owner, right? I understand why these things feel different, but at the end of the day, this is what I'll say every time. I'm like, name one company in the industry that you think is, like, oh, wow, they're huge. They're well marketed. They're the gold standard. If you look at the sum of everything they're doing, right, it's a little bit of a lot of things that have caused you to feel that way about their brand. And it's not just one thing. It's all the things. And so I think that's, that takes a level, and they're committed. It's not about spending so much. It's not about how much you spend. It's about spending it, wisely and being thoughtful. And again, what's the goal? Where are you trying to go with this? And just being true to your brand and to the core of who you are.
Yeah, no, agreed. And with all the stuff that's going on with AI, Chat GPT and I mean that's not even really here, but Chat GPT. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because we do use
Oh my
it
gosh.
here.
Okay. So I'm going to first tell a fun story just because it's hilarious and I have to tell this story because of the platform we're in. So we have a client launched a podcast, different industry, very well known within their sector. And so it's they're more in the DC political, institutional, all that kind of stuff, right? So the other day, this was like a couple weeks ago, all of a sudden someone named Donald Trunk with a K comments on their podcast, right? And so I'm going to lead into why this is Chat GPT in just a second. So my team, I'm on vacation that day, posting in our internal chat going, oh my goodness, it's about to get real. Thinking when they first saw it, Donald Trump, right? Okay. So what's hilarious then is then someone else realizes, no, that's a K, not a P, it's not the same person, whatever. So long story short, then they go on a field day with ChatGPT of impersonating Donald Trump talking to our team. And it was hilarious. And so it just kept going and going and going. But anyway, I use that as that was a very fun way that they, said like, so basically Donald Trump was saying to my team, like, you're the greatest, and Chelsea, oh, she's amazing, and all this stuff. Yeah. And it was so in his voice. I mean, it was like dead on how he would say it, right? But I use that as an example of what I love about tools like Chat GPT is that it allows you to think creatively. It allows you to think out of the box. It makes things faster. You can put information in and say, hey, here's this long, I don't know, like white paper or not even a white paper, but like, here's a long, blog article. And I just want to summarize this down into like 3 key points, right? Because you really want to hone in on what message you want to make. It can analyze and it can summarize with an instant, something that would have taken you several revisions to get through. Now, something to keep in mind with something like ChatGPT, it does require practice. You get in, you get out of it what you put in. There are and there will be, inherent biases as we get into these AI things. So the human element isn't going away. But I find tools like that can speed the process of first drafts. They can speed the process of, brainstorm. We used to go to thesaurus.com, right? And we'd spend hours trying to find like, oh, give me something that looks like this. I can do that in minutes now in a fraction of the time it would have taken to manually do that. So people get very afraid of it, replacing jobs. I don't think it replaces anything. I think it changes how we do things, and it speeds up things that before, quite frankly, were probably not cost effective to begin with, right? So that's how I look at that tool. And that's a lot of times, how I use it.
Yeah, Lisa.
Yeah, we do have a question from Pierre. He says, once the goal and metrics have been defined, what are your thoughts on leveraging ChatGPT? So I think what you can answer now is, can you share what should be avoided?
What's the goal I have defined? Let me read this again. I'm leveraging ChatGPT for marketing campaigns, and can you share what should be avoided? So let me think about this one. Yeah. I think I understand what you're saying, and I think I kind of was already answering it. And that, first off, I'll tell you what should be avoided. Don't just trust the bot. Like, let's just start.
That's very true. And I'm going to tell you, I don't want to cut you off, but I was doing some different things with asking for statistics on some things, and so, I forget exactly what it was, but I'm looking at this and I'm like, there's no way that this is right. And I started researching some of these things, and I'm like, yeah, it was wrong. So yeah, be careful in that sense. Don't trust everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think if your goal and your metrics are defined, I mean, again, I'll go back to like um, how you can use it is to think of things you haven't thought of, come up with different ways to communicate the same message. You know, you can be more creative with it. You can also find the holes sometimes, like you can feed it information and then say, you know, find the part of my argument that wasn't made, or find what the hole is in this, you know, this case or this argument, right? And it'll say like, oh, have you considered, you know, you didn't cover things on the electric side of it, or I don't know, I'm really struggling for an example at this moment, but you can essentially use it to find the flaws in your thinking. And I will go back to in that answer and going to my first thing I said, which is just be careful. You know, it takes a human. You still need to read it. Don't just copy and paste and, you know, c'est la vie with this stuff. It sounds robotic a lot of the times, you know, and the information may or may not, you need to trust but verify is what one of my courses.
Yeah, I would say so. And you like when you add, I mean, listen, I've used it to write different posts or newsletter or blog things or different things, and oftentimes I'll get that, and it's a great way to even start to know change it around and make it your own. I've done that many a time. So,
100%.
you know, I mean, I've seen people, I've looked into people. Hey, write me an email, you know, introducing my company, and because maybe you want to reach out to new customers and you're struggling to find the right words. You could type in exactly what you want to do, start an email for me, and it'll put that together. I mean, there's different ways to do it. Even when we first started, Lisa, right? I was like, write a song about commercial fryers in the style of Eminem. And it was so funny what you get, because you actually get something, right?
Just like my team did. Yeah. And I think you're right. Using it, think about all the people in your team that maybe struggle with writing or need something proofread. It's a great tool that you can use. You can also, again, as you said, feed in information and say, hey, compare these two things, right? And it's speed. It makes efficiency and speed. And my biggest thing of what to avoid is don't just trust the bot. Like, you know, there's maybe 5 years from now, we'll say it replaces us completely, but I don't think so. I think there's that human touch that you're always going to need, and that gut check too.
Yeah, humans are not going to be replaced. That's the fact. Lisa, I mean, Lisa, anyone want to add to this? Because I know you're using.
I use it at least 5 times a day. Truly, like I have used it for writing up job descriptions or creating job posts. I typically do ask my ChatGPT if I give it a prompt, I'll follow up that prompt and say, what do you need from me to make it better? So like I'll ask ChatGPT, what do you need from me? And it'll tell me, oh, give me more insight to this. Tell me this, blah, blah, blah. And then it actually creates things better. So like you mentioned, Chelsea, it's one of those tools that you do have to know how to use. And the more you give it, the more information it starts to learn what is more helpful for you. Even something as simple as like descriptions, there's a bajillion products out there that might all do the same thing, but just having ChatGPT reword it for you in maybe a more charismatic tone, or like you were saying, writing up a blog post. If you want to change the tone of that blog post, maybe you made it too serious and you want to make it sound a little bit charismatic, it could words and sprinkles for you. So yeah, and then I also use it for image generation because I use other AI for like Midjourney is my favorite for image generation. And I probably shouldn't share this, but I've created a lot of images for that I use in marketing with AI. For example,
that's the new norm. I mean, I think that's where things are going. I don't think, like that's a bad thing. I think it's just, being mindful of there's a reason why you probably did it, right? Like you couldn't find the exact thing you needed, right? And this.
I'm not sure if you saw. Did you see my Barbie post? by any
I
chance?
don't think I did.
So it
No.
was around the time for the Barbie movie, and everyone was jumping on the Barbie trends of creating uh them like a frame with a Barbie and putting themselves in it. And I was like,
Yeah.
let me try to create a food equipment Barbie, a commercial food equipment service technician Barbie, and it worked. I created 4 images out of that and was able to jump on a trend, which got a lot of views. So that's one way that I use
That's
AI
awesome.
as well. Like you're saying, speed. Like if I was to try to make those images myself, it would take me
Yeah.
so long. And I
Yeah.
probably couldn't.
Yeah.
So utilizing
And
AI, I was able
yeah.
to create images that I never would have been able to do myself.
Yeah, I think that AI, the way I look at it, is that it it allows people to be even more creative. It will drive more competition in that sense, which actually will drive things to be better because anytime you know competition leads to innovation, right? So, for instance, actually in our team, I'll give an example. I wanted backgrounds that were like like Crave-esque backgrounds because like there was I don't know just like you have your background at one point in time, everyone that I was on a Zoom had like these really nice backgrounds that were on brand. And so I asked our designer, and he had AI like dream up like the future Crave office. And 2 or 3 of our team members use it to this day. And every so often someone will comment, they'll be like, that's a really cool, like, space looking, crate or office or whatever. And then we explain that that's an AI generated image, which is great because it makes it more familiar, right? And so then people see the results. I think half the time, anytime something's changing, it's the fear factor that makes you go, ooh, hot. I don't want to touch it. And I really say just play with it, practice with it, because AI is going to meet you where you are. I strongly believe that. I'm a part of a group that talks about these things all the time, like a marketing mastermind group that I've been involved in with for the last year. And, it's going to be, and you already see it now, all of us, you log into Meta or you log into, I mean, honestly, almost any app, Netflix, everyday stuff. And it keeps, getting better. It keeps getting smarter. It keeps, suggesting things now. And the tools will say like, oh, like, do you want to, post your thing at this time instead of this time? That's all AI. It's going to meet us where we are. But I do think in the meantime, getting familiar with how it works, what it can do, and finding places like you did, Lisa, and you did, Rich, and I have also, and our team has, finding where it makes you more efficient is going to make you more competitive in the long run. It's not going away, right? So, if you think about your business and somebody can get a contract over to someone faster than you can, or they can get a presentation or things like that, like these are ways that you need to stay ahead of the curve. So familiarize yourself with it. You'll have to
Yeah.
master it.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, maximizing efficiency, there's a necessary speed in the day to day that you need to get things done. Obviously, long term is patient, but the day to day you have to stay urgent. And these things they're here to stay, and they're going to keep evolving and getting better. And they're gonna, for me, I think it's going to make marketing, people that are in marketing, better. It's going to make, like
Oh,
you said,
100%.
So Lisa, you got something?
Well, yeah, because so just like Chelsea mentioned with social media, you get what you put in, and it's an investment. So I actually did want you to share, Rich, what return on investments you've seen since you've started your social media journey, because I feel like that's just going to lead people to understand that what you put into AI is also going to have a return on investment within the next 18 months, like you said, Chelsea. So yeah, pedal back to your social media, and if you can share how
Yeah.
it's impacted your business.
Yeah, I mean, it's been impactful leading up right to right now. And I'll start by saying this because so many people are worried about. One of the biggest things. I want to start, but I'm worried about being criticized and the haters and all this stuff. And I was just watching football over the weekend, and Coach Sean Payton, I think he said this over at Denver. If people aren't hating on you, you're not popping. That's what he said, right? And then the Jets coach just doubled down on that. So embrace the hate, embrace
Yeah.
it, because they're probably watching your post longer than the people that love you. That's number one. All right. So you get going, do your thing, right? You're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort. I'll give a very recent example. Me and Lisa, we went out to the Pizza Expo, and a lot of those connections and things developed where, Lisa, on LinkedIn, right?
Yes.
If it was not for LinkedIn, if it was not for all the work that we were putting in out there, these people wouldn't even know who I was. I probably
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't know who they were, because they're doing their thing, they're posting, they're doing things, and it led to a partnership that's developed where we're going to be the national dispatch company for Pizza Group USA. We're going to be the OEM parts distributor for Pizza Group USA. And of course, Maliki will be the service company. And we'll bring some other companies on across the country as well for service and maintenance installations, factory authorized. This is a major partnership. This is huge. What's going to develop over the next several years, and it doesn't happen if we're not doing consistent social media marketing. It just doesn't
Yeah.
happen. And they said, people, oh, you shouldn't be out there eating pizza while your company. Wrong. Don't let anybody tell you what you should do. You know
I
what
love the
is
pizza.
best for you and
Come
your
on, I
company.
love the pizza.
So I listen. I got some shade thrown my way from different places,
Yeah.
irrelevant, but people are gonna say things. Good. They don't know you. They don't know your business. They don't know your life. So get out there and put this stuff out. That's one. Listen, we've had national chains come through social media that have developed into long-term customers over the last 4 or 5 years now. There's just even technicians, a most recent one, which this will be the last example, and I think one of the most powerful, because on the service side, we're all looking for technicians on a consistent basis. Of course, a lot of us are doing our training. We're training 2 guys at a clip at any given moment, and looking for seasoned guys whenever, however we can. So, long story short, someone posted anonymously in a group that I think I'm a part of, but I'm not really too active in it, and explained they were looking to move on and different reasons, blah, blah, blah. 4 different people tagged my name in that post for talk to Rich Maliki. If you're in that market, talk to Rich Maliki. If I'm not out there doing what I do, those 4 people don't even know who I am.
Yep.
These people, now these technicians that are coming here, and listen, we're bringing them on board faster than I could have ever imagined, and I'm super grateful, and it's super exciting. And that's the power of what social media marketing has done, is led me to all these different opportunities. And that's what social media marketing is about. It's about creating opportunity.
And I'm going to take it a step further, because you are a good use case for this. I'm going to make the argument that it's not just social media marketing. It's your personal brand. People trust you. People have gotten to know you through the tactics, through the channels of which you share your information, right? And so I think that is, when you talk about AI, and this is, something, again, in the group that I kind of study with, right, that we talk about how important personal branding is, right? I couldn't have launched Crave if I hadn't, knowing I wanted to go out on my own, worked very specifically on my personal brand, networking, making sure that people knew me, make sure I was connected to them. And then at the start of the company, I was very, very active in putting out those thoughts, those messages, etc. Right? I was in the right place at the right time for then something to happen. COVID hit, right? So people knew to find me, and same thing, and the referrals come in. For you, and a big part of what you do, you've created all this trust in you, right? And another thing I want to add on that, so your personal brand is very strong, right? So people know you. They've met you through many different ways. They've gotten to know who you are, what you're about, what your company's about. That's why they feel comfortable and they trust referring somebody to you. And why that matters is because as AI continues, we're talking about AI and marketing right now, right? AI is going to be all through in your medical records. Like, it's going to be in your taxes. It's already coming into these places, right? So what's going to happen is only a matter of time before things, and it's already happening on some level, go out that are fake, right? They're impersonations. They're what they call deep fakes, right? Things like that. And when times get tough, if the economy turns down, if something happens, like, I look to people I trust, and I know you're out there, you're talking to me, you've been speaking my language, you've been, sharing your ups and downs with me. So I trust you. And so therefore I'm going to look to you in that time for help, or at least, I'm going to pay attention to what content you're putting out. Right. And Rich, you've been doing this a long time. that's that commitment part and that longevity. And you have changed different things. I've watched you change different tactics, the way you go about things, the look, the feel. You've been tweaking it along the way. It's no surprise to me that now it converts, right? Because you're getting better and more honed in, and you have a community. That personal brand you built into a community. Community is where I feel, people belong. They belong to this group, right? And so they're going to pay attention to what's there, and they're going to look out, and they want to participate. And so those are all things that you've done very well, but also, I implore everyone else to think about that. If you're not active on your LinkedIn, listen, like, you got to get active on that from a professional stance. Get active, get acclimated, get used to that platform. You can make arguments all you want. Like, we all have our favorites, and we all can only digest so much. It is okay if TikTok's not your thing. It's not my thing. I'll look at it, but I don't produce content for it. It's just not my thing, right?
Yeah.
But that's okay. But the one that I will implore is LinkedIn. And there's one other thing that I do want to hit on, to your point about the haters. And I think this will be interesting to everyone. I just read this article. I think it was a Forbes article. Yes, it was a Forbes article. Just came out within the last month. So, why I don't get too hung up on metrics always is that there are study after study that's coming out now and saying that the most engaged content is not necessarily the best for you content, right? Meaning that we have gone, there's like the newness of voting with your like is over. We're 10 plus years into this social thing, right? So we don't actively engage as a consumer in the ways that we used to, meaning that sometimes the most engaged content are things that are negative, and we're more likely to put our opinions out there if we want to defend or we want to, criticize or whatever. That doesn't mean that that's the most important content to use to convert in like a paid ad or somewhere else. So like, you have to kind of take a little bit of the ebb and flow of human behavior, and ultimately, what marketing is all about, driving behaviors. So what behavior do you want to drive people to, and how do we get them to that is what you want to think about.
Yeah.
That was probably a lot.
No, I mean, it's all spot on though. Lisa, before we go, are we going to do anything?
Not yet. Nope.
Not yet. Okay. Because I see some things happening down here on the board here, I'll say. All right. I'm not worried. Listen, I'm not worried. I'm just here.
I don't know. I always put my foot in my mouth at some point because I will definitely misquote something. So,
That's all right. I'm sure I've misquoted many times. So let's see. It might be. So I'm gonna jump into another question here. Let's see where we go.
Sure.
It might seem counterintuitive for many businesses to increase marketing efforts during a sales downturn. Could you explain why this strategy can be effective and share some examples?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a couple schools of thought here, and I guess like the first and foremost, and I was having this debate in preparation, internally, knowing that we were going to be talking about this, and I certainly have some strong opinions, but someone on our team reminded me, and they're so right, and that time is money, and marketing takes a lot of effort, right? And it takes it's like the analogy they used was it's like getting the train to leave the station. And once the train's left the station, it gets more momentum and it's going, right? And it's kind of goes back to that whole commitment thing that I was talking about, right? So don't just stop. Like, you spend all this money and effort, getting your algorithms to think that, hey, your content, it's worth it. Let's make sure that we show it. You spent all this energy into your audience hearing from you and being familiar with you. You've spent all this effort into a design, or it's not just, we shouldn't just talk social, right? Like, you've created like this awesome brochure or whatever the thing is, this video. Oh my goodness, like, don't just stop because things get bad. Yes, you might want to reconsider where you spend your funds. Yes, you absolutely should think about these things. Don't cut off your nose in spite of your face. Oh, to spite your face. See, I'll get it wrong. You guys can make fun of me.
Sounds good.
Right. But the other thing that I want to say on that matter is that this is how I truly look at it from a global stance. Okay, so things aren't going well. your customers aren't spending as much money. Why? Well, you can give the simple answer and say, well, it's the economy, stupid, or, whatever. Okay, but let's drill a layer deeper than that, right? Is what I say. So, okay, the economy. Oh, money is more expensive to borrow right now. Oh, so they can't get a loan for something that's a large purchase because it's too expensive right now. It's out of their reach. Oh, so me as a business, like, think about what problem your client has and how can you help them overcome that problem for the short term and the long term, right? So if money is tighter, I'm just going to go rabbit hole down this one. Money's tighter, loans are tighter, whatever. So then are they hobbling along with like the same equipment and they really need this other thing, this bigger thing? Okay, well then how can you make sure that in hobbling along, they keep that equipment running and effective and whatnot? Like, you're going to build trust right through there, right? So maybe you have some inexpensive ways you can solve their problem. Maybe it's that, because of that, because money's tight, they're having a labor shortage. Like, they can't pay enough people, right? Or maybe their food costs are out of control. Like, all of this is under the umbrella of the economy isn't doing well, right? Okay, right. We can go through and say inflation hits this, it's this, it's that. But at the end of the day, there's something that your clients are dealing with. And if you can solve or help solve that problem for them, then maybe they'll be willing to make that purchase first off, and they can find that money. But if they aren't, like, do you know what trust and loyalty you've built by acknowledging the problem that they have and then showing how you can solve it? Maybe you can find ways. Maybe one of the companies you're working with can do financing. Maybe, there's a grant out there. I mean, think out of the box whenever things get bad. And that is that, again, being vocal and out there with a personal brand. I mean, it's going to pay off in space, and give information freely. Like, my mentor says that, and I 100% agree with it, right? Give information freely, because the reciprocation of that will always pay off in space.
Yeah, no, I agree. And my first thought on this with a sales downturn type thing, we don't have money. There's also ways, and yes, you can reallocate money, you can do things in a different way, but there's also a way to do it without money. And I continue to do this to this day. How about from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m.? Because everyone's going to say I have no time during the day. So 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., how about you start DMing people on LinkedIn? And it doesn't have to be people you don't know. It could be people you do know, and just checking in on them and say, hey, maybe go look at their posts. Hey, I see what you guys are doing with the expansion. I love it. Anything we could do to help, great. If not, I'm just enjoying watching the ride. Keep up the great work. Do that. Start sending out. Say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to send out 10 DMs a day. I just did 2 in the middle of a work day as things were popping up on my feed. I'm like, I got to congratulate this guy. But I'm not just going to do it on the post. I will, because I want to engage in that post and say, hey, congrats, brother. Blah, blah. But I also want to go to the DM when I want to do that. Staying to the front of mind. You can't just, like you said, you can't just cancel all the work you just put in, especially if you've been doing this for a decade or 5 years. You have to keep going. There's a reason. Listen, I don't think McDonald's necessarily needs to advertise anymore. They do it because they want to be at the front of your mind. You have to stay relevant. You have to keep evolving it. So there's more ways than just posting. Jump into engagement. Start engaging on other 100%. People's posts. Start DMing people and see where that takes you. Because believe me, there's been many times where I've reached out to people and they will go, "Oh, I'm glad you reached out to me. I have an installation in New York City. It's a big one. Can I send it to you?" They might not have been thinking about me. Maybe they forgot about me for a minute. And I just brought myself and my company back to the center of their minds. And now I got an installation opportunity that could have been $15,000, whatever it might have been. Who knows?
Totally.
You have to continue to do those things.
And what I like that I hear from you, and I really, the sales manager in me gets excited, right? Is that's that diversification of marketing and sales working together, right? You were doing something that some might think of as more of a sales outreach type of thing, a check-in, right? But ultimately, you are marketing your company. You are building trust. You are building your brand, so these things have to work together. And I completely agree, with your tactic, just in that personal touch. I just think that anytime you can do that, again, it goes back to like bots don't replace humans, right?
That's right.
Not surprised a one-on-one interaction yields a good result. So
It does, and and if you have sales teams, say if you're the national sales manager and you have sales teams, or even if you're in a small business and maybe you have 1 or 2 people on the road, whatever it might be, you have to have them buy in and adopt these practices. And I love you, Lori. Lori, I know if you're watching, she does a phenomenal job for us. But she comes from a bit of a different school, and I've been talking to her about LinkedIn. I'm like, you have no idea. It's a tool. At the end of the day, it's a tool, and you should be using it. So we're working on getting her more acclimated with that, and she's been doing it. And again, she'll I haven't heard back from anybody. Lori, I send 500 messages a week. I love you. Guess what? Give it some time. It's going to happen. Eventually, someone's going to say, hey, I got that message from you back in August. I didn't respond. I apologize. But you know what? We actually have a need for some maintenance. And
100. Yep.
You got to have your team buy into this stuff too, because
Yeah.
if you're all doing it, especially in a sales downturn, that's going to be a catalyst to getting you back to where you want to be.
Yeah. And there's 2 things that I want to add to that. One is about LinkedIn. LinkedIn works very differently than other social platforms. And that's why there's an article that just came out recently about LinkedIn is where all the cool kids are, right? Well, it's where all the cool kids are because, algorithms right now, to the point I made before, of the most engagement sometimes is happening with more inflammatory or stuff that for whatever reason isn't maybe the best for us to digest, right? And you can define that a lot of different ways, right? Doesn't have to be politics, could be feelings and things like that. That said, that LinkedIn is all about creating conversation. It wants to see conversation happening. It's looking for in-depth. Are people commenting within that first hour? I took a masterclass on LinkedIn. Within that first hour of you posting, it is rating and going, is this worthy? And if you get, I think the magic number is 10. It's around 10 comments, which can include yours that are, meaty comments, good interactions. You've created a conversation. Things are going to spike. And we have had clients that, you can do it coordinated. You can be that sophisticated. We've had clients that, it's more of just a natural, by tagging people, or again, they're just very well networked and they're, active a lot, but we see the payoffs of that. So it acts differently. And that's why, in a lot of ways, we're seeing so much interaction and so much happening on LinkedIn. There's something else I wanted to mention. I'll think of it here in a second.
While you think of that, I'll even say, don't be afraid to be controversial. I mean, I find those posts that I put out, are the most engaged. And I'm not saying be disrespectful. You don't have to mention names and all that. Listen, everyone, if you're in an industry, believe me, everyone knows the players. Everyone knows what's going on. It's about the topics and the issues at hand. So bring those up. Do a poll. If you don't do polls, start throwing a poll in the mix once a week. See what that gets you. There's just a lot of different things you could be doing to drive that engagement. And LinkedIn, from what I see, and there might be stats out there, it's the greatest place for any kind of engagement.
Yeah. I know what I wanted to say. So you were talking about if there's a downturn, and I went down the rabbit hole or the path of don't just stop, right? Everything. The other thing that I think is very practical for everyone, and listen, we're, as a marketing agency, we're guilty of this. In fact, we're doing a whole project right now to make sure that we are not too guilty of this, right? Which is, you made content at some point in time in the past for a reason, right? There is no reason why, do not be one and done with your content, right? Yes, you might have made it to begin with because it, answered a question because that was the hot topic at the time or whatever. But chances are, especially if you're a manufacturer or a rep, or, you're selling something, there's a reason why you answered that question or why you made that piece of content to begin with. That reason didn't cease to exist because you pushed it out on LinkedIn 6 months ago. That reason is still relevant. Bring that information back to the front. If you need to rework it because of seasonality, if you need to rethink it because maybe something's changed. I mean, this is daily at this point, right? Some of this stuff does move fast, but you can save a lot of money because you invested in that content to begin with. Take your long form video and chop it up into a bunch of small videos, right? Now you've got 10 pieces of content out of something that was 2 minutes long, right? So I think that would be my other advice of, thinking smarter and, going back through what you did. Maybe you did something for a trade show. Take the booth number off of it, right? reinvent the wheel. Maybe put people on a drip campaign that solves like 3 of their top needs for cleanliness or labor savings, or I don't know. I'm making things. I'm trying to be food service centric right now, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And just to hit on that note, there are tools that there's AI that can take long form content and literally chop it all up for you, even put text over it. If it's like, let's say a long interview, this right here, we can have AI just chop it up and put it through.
Yep.
But I like having the human element of looking through the content myself, because sometimes the robots don't pick the best thing. And so I do have someone who's going to join us here for a live question. I'm going to bring him in.
Oh no! Should I duck or should I?
Get ready.
All right.
Oh my goodness!
Hey.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me.
We hear you. I want to welcome. Well, let's welcome Jason Hartman to the live. Jason, do a quick brief intro and let everybody know who you are and what you do.
My name is Jason Hartman. I'm the director of marketing for American Panel. I've been here for about 3 years. Before that, I worked at Wellbolt and stuff like that. So I've been in the food service industry for about 20 years, I think. Oh man, I hate to say that, 20 years. But but I'm on here a lot. You probably see me in the comments a lot. So this is first time live on here. But I've been listening, and so much great info that I didn't have many questions because you keep answering it like as I'm about to ask it. So great job, guys. Amazing. So
all right, thanks.
I had kind of a comment on the downturn when you guys were talking about it and stuff like that, just based on some of my experience and stuff like that. A lot of times, like you said, to pivot during the downturn and don't cut it all out and stuff like that. A lot of the things that I've seen has been, it's not necessarily the marketing department that is cutting it. Like no marketing department is saying, take some of my money away. It's usually someone higher up. Like it's usually about the company itself maybe not valuing marketing and stuff like that, and not understanding exactly what marketing does, because marketing it's not the arts and crafts department. That's not what it is. So it's about understanding how that marketing comes into play and what it's meant to do, which is effectively convey a message to a target audience. So that's what it does. So companies that understand that utilize it during those downturns way heavier than companies that do not understand it. And that's why you see cuts. I think that's why you see cuts and stuff like that. And being internal marketing for several different companies, you see it a lot. When cuts come down, first thing to cut is marketing, because it's not understood how it works. But if done correctly, like you said, reusing content, the trade show thing was great because I literally just did that, I think 2 weeks ago. But utilizing that, reusing it, readjusting all that stuff is how you keep it going and how you bridge those downturns and stuff like that by doing it. So it was a great thing. I did have one small question. I don't know how long this will get. As far as the AI, you talked about AI is going to come to where you live and stuff like that, and it's going to be in all these different places. At what point do we now need to take into consideration as far as ethical considerations when keeping in mind implementing AI into our marketing efforts?
I'll let you take
That's
that,
a tough
Chelsea.
one.
That might be above my pay grade.
I think that's the $1 million question, to be honest. I mean, I have a thing to invite you to, Jason Hartman. I know exactly what I where you should be with me next spring, because that was a great debate. I mean, I'm in this Discord group and it's constantly debated in there. And I mean, I wish I participated even more in the debate, but like where those ethical lines are, right? And what does that mean? And like what happens when somebody takes your content and then puts it behind a paywall, and now they're getting people to pay money to get answers that you freely put out there, right? I don't know the answer to these things at this point. I laugh because someone close to me is in a role in the government that I think will greatly shape all of this. And so I'm kind of, listening and learning, and I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know it's going to be something we have to all think about. I mean, data privacy, I have seen people talking about scraping data. Well, the algorithm can figure out if you're doing that. It might shut down like you on the platform. Well, if you get shut down, then what did you just invest all these years and time into? Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You asked the $1 million question. Do you have thoughts for that?
I think that I get a lot of questions because I also use AI a lot, and because one of my really weak points is writing. Like I can't write. I'm not great at it. I have a note program that I use, and I put in all of my thoughts, but it's a mess of thoughts as far as when I go in there. But I'm able to use AI to kind of flush it all out and try to figure it all out and stuff like that. So I get people asking me all the time, and I think that it's like anything else, spell check or calculators, all this type of stuff. It's a tool, and it's how you use it. So when it comes to ethical considerations, it's really either per person or per company kind of what the strategy and the policy is based on that. Like even going into it, be like, let's say you're building strategy for a company that wants to do rebranding or something like that. Maybe that AI process or that consideration or whatever is built into that. Say, all right, only 40% of our content can be AI generated. The rest has to be original. Or, so then you're setting limits on some of the stuff that you're doing, or a policy might be, we produce no AI generated imagery. That could be another thing, like we just make sure that we don't do that because in case we run into any issues or something like that. But I think that it comes down to by company or by person, even on how far you take it, because like any tool, you can use it for a wide variety of things and be used for good, used for bad. It's just depends on the person. But if policies are in place, which they didn't exist before, I think it needs to be built into maybe even the values and mission and visions built into that as to how authentic a company is as part of that value system. And the AI flows into it.
And I see where you were kind of going with this. I was thinking more like on the, legal stance, right? Like I was thinking like even higher, like on that whole, but I agree. I mean, I think this goes back to what I originally said, is that you can't take the human element out of it, right? Like at this point in time, as an organization, we use it to speed things up and we use it to brainstorm, but we don't replace people with it. We don't replace the thought process. We don't replace our work with it, right? And I do think that there are some things, whether it's within the company or on the agency side, I think these are all things we're going to have to grapple with, because there was actually a discussion on a podcast that I was listening to this morning that was saying that this one agency was saying, hey, now that like my team can do things like in 1/10 of the time that it used to take, should I start changing my pricing? Right. And there was a whole debate on this podcast about that. I know, right? Like, I mean, I think that that's an opportunity to invest that money probably into other tech that you need, or more people, or whatever it is. But you were 100% right. Like, I think that these are things that as we grow and change and adapt and use technology more, right, we will have to start address those on a company level. We're going to address it on a corporate or a country level, right? I think some of it inherently, like, I do think it's going to meet us where we are. And so some of it's going to be so seamless in the background of things that we'll kind of forget. Like Netflix, you don't think about Netflix being an AI. You don't think about your Amazon being AI. Like, you just don't think about it. That's the service that they provide. So I think some of it will go away, but I do think that you raised an extremely important point that I've made to C-suite level when I said, yeah, be careful that your team doesn't just start writing all their emails with like, like I told my team specifically when it came out, I said, we do not use this with client stuff. We can use it internally. We can play with it until we know where the line is. And that's something that, again, now, you know, it is understood under my team, you know, that we're not just like ChatGPT the world away. I mean, but you can't, but again, yes, I have literally said that to owners of companies. I said, please, if you're going to allow your team to play with this, put a big giant asterisk on, you know, you don't want every email going out sounding like a robot or weird or, you know, whatever. So,
right.
And I would put some of this on. So for me, I mean, I'm not going to consider myself some kind of you know, marketing guru or anything. I just like to put content out about stuff I'm doing in my life, right? That's really how I feel like I'm a marketer in that sense. But Lisa, I don't know if you have anything on this, like, because you're really leading the endeavors here as far as this goes. I mean, I don't even really think I thought about side of any of this stuff because I'm just trying to pump stuff out. I bring stuff, I'm like, let's put it out, let's put it out. And she's like, wait, well, calm down.
You're like the Tasmanian devil of content. You just stir it up and stir it up.
I'm just whatever. Let's do it. So, Lisa, if you have anything.
I honestly, I haven't thought about it that far.
Yeah.
Probably because I'm not at the point where I'm copying other people. I genuinely am using them for like original things that come out of my brain, just making it easier for myself. So I feel like Jason does bring up a good point where I don't know, Rich, you might have to put in a policy here that says, you know, AI can only be used for content that comes from, you know, prompts that I create, not something that I reword or copy from somebody else, kind of deal.
It sounds like, Lisa, you need to be the gatekeeper of this. So, because it sounds like Rich is just pushing it out, but as marketing director, you're the one who needs to be like, all right, you can't do that, or you.
Well, yeah. she just shut me down this morning.
Really, listen, I have these conversations with Rich all the time, shutting him down.
Yep. I got scolded this morning, and now I have to just slow. I gotta slow down. That's my big thing. I gotta slow down.
But Jason, thank you so much for that question. Just for the sake of time, I'm gonna bring you out. So thank you, Jason, again for joining our live. I appreciate you coming in person, really, to show face because you're always in the comments. But thank you for all the comments.
Yeah, happy to be here, and let me know if you want me to come in at any other time. I'm happy to.
We appreciate it. Thanks, Jason.
Bye, Jason. It's so good to see you. I love him. He's so great.
He's the best. And he always has really thought-provoking questions and comments. So
I know.
Without him, these lives might die a slow death sometimes. So thank God for him.
I agree. And it's funny because I keep always thinking about like, oh, what are going to be the impacts of this with all of the like laws and things and like, you know, how do you not get sued and this and this and this. And, you know, you put it so simply. I mean, too, I didn't even think about the fact that, when ChatGPT came out, I put an immediate moratorium on using it until I felt comfortable where it would be used, how it would be used, what it would be, you know, used on. That's a great point.
Yeah, and I think a great way to kind of wind this down, because we're already this is how fast an hour goes. Like we just talked.
I didn't think it could happen.
Yeah, listen, we could do another hour. Like, I mean, it'll go, but. With the time crunch here, let's leave some people with something they can begin doing, using some good information as far as talking about tools and like you know, I'll see. I'm just gonna give an example. Like for stuff that I do like personally on my phone, I'll use InShot often to do a lot of editing and different things. But for maybe is there anything AI or any kind of programs, softwares, free things out there that people could be implementing and using once they get off this live with us today? I know, Lisa, you said you were using.
Well, I could just shoot out a website. So if there is anything that you would like to automate, and you're like, oh, I wonder if AI can do that. There's a website called futurepedia.io. and literally anything you could think of. If you want to search to see if it's possible to do faster with AI, you can look at that website, and they have a bunch of free options that you can try, but a lot of them are also freemium, meaning you can try it out for free, but then you'd have to pay for it. Yeah, that's my little tidbit.
I think, see, that's good. So people, if you're out there, futurepedia.io, why not listen? And I know there's always time, so go check it out, even if you just to understand what's happening out there, even if you're not
Here's
going to.
a little quick example. Let's say you recorded a video or you recorded a podcast and you don't like the way the audio sounds. There's AI that can literally run your audio and make it sound perfect. And I've used that on a couple of Rich's videos, pizza wise, where we're outside and there's just too much noise from garbage trucks or something. AI literally ran it through and it made it sound like he was in a podcast. So that's just an example.
There you go.
I think that's a great example. I mean, what I'll leave people with, and I'm gonna go just from a statistic standpoint. Now, this audience might be a little bit skewed because it's your audience, Rich, but I would tell, and I have been telling, C-suite and the people that I deal with, like, get ChatGPT and start playing with it. Pay the $20 a month or whatever to have the better version of it. And why I say that is that prompting and all the things that Lisa talked about, and I mean, she is at she's using it in a lot of different ways, right? And a lot of people that we're talking to might not be on the artistry side or dealing with a podcast or something like that. And so I think the biggest thing you can do is get familiar with that popular tool, because it'll help you understand when then you encounter it in, searches and things like that. And as it's added to things like your Outlook or whatever. So that would be what I would truly start with that, because I think a lot of people still haven't, or they like dip their toe in and then stopped. And I think that, learning and practicing that tool is extremely helpful. So.
Yeah, 100%. Agree 100%. It's all going to be part of our everyday lives in the marketing world. And listen, if you're running a business in the food service industry, I don't care if you're a rep, a dealer, a service company, you need to be in tuned. This is every day. This is part of your business now. It should be in your weekly meetings. It should be a part of your life. ChatGPT, AI, here to stay, here to grow. This is my forewarning to you. Don't get left behind. So,
yes.
Lisa, anything else on the message board?
No, that's it.
That's it. All right. Well,
we did it.
We did it. So before we let you go,
Yep.
let's know where all the places we could find you.
Oh, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's my personal preference, right? That's where I try to be the most active. Although, listen, for real, stepmom now, sometimes it is a balance in my life to run a company and grow at the rate we have and be out there. But LinkedIn, you can find me, Chelsea Raystuck. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find our website, crave.com, CRAEVE.com. Or pick up the phone and call us, send me a text. I really appreciate this time and this opportunity to come and nerd out on marketing, because it's what I'm passionate about.
Well, we're happy to have you. And is there any other events or anything going on? Are we going to see you anywhere? Are you going to Cefesa conference? You don't go to Cefesa?
I'm not going to the Cefesa conference because we are very busy with year end, and we are implementing some things that set us up for the MOFSI conference. MOFSI conference, I will definitely be there. That's in January 2024. And then all the traditional conferences after that, NRA and whatnot. But you never know. I might pop up in different places.
All right.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to go check you out on LinkedIn and CRAEV.com. And Chelsea, thank you again for all the insight today.
Awesome.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
All right. Fired up in the books. I love talking about marketing. I really do, because it's just such an important component of what we do here. Obviously, we're a service company. We fix equipment. We care for other people. We care for other people's businesses. That's what we do. But, the marketing thing is just it's definitely a driver, maybe even behind the scenes, you could say, driver of everything that we're doing here. And it's a way to get our message out, and we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep evolving it. Nothing's going to stay the same. If you go back to 2018 and you start looking at some of those videos that I started with, to 2020, through the pandemic, to where we are now, it's all different. It all looks different, and it has to. It can't. Nothing can stay the same. So keep evolving your platform, keep evolving your brand, keep evolving your message, keep evolving. That's the bottom line. And listen, haters are going to hate, and don't worry about the haters. Again, I get so many in my conversations. People are so worried. Let them talk. Just tell them no, you're going to see them at the finish line. So fired up, Lisa.
Fired up.
Any last things to add?
No.
That's it.
I think
We
that's
got
it.
a ton to do, but next week is the final episode.
Final episode, yes, and Dylan before he was on here.
Oh.
So next week we have Andrew Brown and Dylan Taylor. We're gonna finalize this season by talking about the importance of your tool bag. And
Yes.
so for anyone who may not know Andrew Brown, he is a strong advocate for the skilled trades, and he also is the owner of toolfetch.com. I believe that's his website.
You think so?
And Dylan Taylor, he was one of the technicians that we highlighted in Through Their Eyes, and I thought he would be great for this conversation because he is an extremely organized tool person and has every tool you could possibly think of. So I would love to have both of them on to talk about that.
Yes.
So very excited. And are you sad that the season is ending?
I'm very sad. I love getting up here and getting fired up and going live with everybody and talking about all the good, the bad, and the ugly that this industry is all about. And it keeps me moving, and I'm looking forward to next season. Lisa, could we schedule next season?
Oh boy, we'll sit down and figure out when.
We'll slow it down. We'll listen. We will be back for another round of Fired Up in 2024. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'm. This was a great season. I'm excited to close it down and talk about. And I'm excited for the tools because I think that's something I really want to learn more about. You know, I know what our guys tell us. I know what I know, but I don't know what I don't know. So. I'm looking forward to that because, we want to keep evolving our Tex vans and making sure we have all the things, to get the job done. So that'll be a great one to close it out. Lisa, I guess that's it for this Wednesday of Fired Up.
That's it.
There's a lot to get going here for the next couple of days. We have a lot to do as we roll into Cefesa Conference in October. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. But listen, you still got plenty of day left, so make sure you don't waste it. Go get it done. Stay fired up. See you on the next one.